What's up, everybody? Thanks for being with us here on another Wednesday. It's Hump Day, and what could be better than talking about the association, obviously. NBA, it's the Jock MKT Show. Adam Kaufman, Geoff, Ulrich. We are here for Moose. It's the holiday season. It is a robust, it is a jolly, it is a Santa-sized slate tonight. 13 games on the docket, man. How excited are you?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot going on tonight, obviously. So I'll get to it with the Jock MKT stuff on the show. But if you play the Jock MKT format, if you like investing in it, I mean, these slates for NBA can be a lot of fun. So we'll try and hit on as many guys as possible. But realistically, it'll probably just be giving out our best plays, because this is one we could literally do probably like a 3-hour show on if we wanted. So.
Well, and for anyone that doesn't know, obviously, and we talk about it all the time, we do this show at the same time every week. Jock MKT, obviously, kind of a stock market sort of approach. It's not your typical DFS. You invest in shares of guys that you think are going to perform well. There's an in-game element to it as well, investing in guys. Say somebody gets hurt and leaves a game, or, their minutes are limited for whatever the reason. We have all sorts of guys that have been entering COVID protocols left and right, or they're just out with non-COVID related illnesses. I mean, illnesses, once again, not unlike last year, sweeping the league, all across the country and up in Canada as well. So it is a tricky situation when it comes to certainly DFS, which is why you should be happy that for the purposes of this show, daily fantasy or season long, not your focus. Your focus is, all right, what do we know right now and who is going to perform well? So that in mind, Geoff, obviously with the 13 games, we got a whole host of players that we could talk about. As you said, there are a ton here. What I always like to do, I always like to open the show this way, is looking at some of the most popular names, the highest projected guys when it comes to what sort of fantasy output or even Jock MKT output they're going to have. And of course, a lot of the guys that we're used to talking about, there's the Joker, Nick Jokic, there's Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, there's James Harden, there's Kevin Durant, there's Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine, Jason Tatum, Rudy Gobert, Christian Wood. You go on and on and on, and it feels like a theme every time we do these shows. None of these higher priced guys, for the most part, there are a couple exceptions in there, but for the most part, none of these guys are in any sort of exceptional position right now where you say, man, all right, what's the fair IPO price? I need to invest right now and take advantage of the price where it is.
Yeah. For the most part, I agree. I mean, there's stronger spots than others, but it's not like one we're all climbing and saying this guy's a must play. And again, it's a big slate, right? I think this especially for the Jock MKT format, this really works to your advantage though, because the IPOs are spread out. The love is all spread out. And it means that if you can really hone in on a couple guys who you think, again, I mean, we're talking about projections. We're talking about like best estimated guesses here. If you can hone in on a couple guys, you're probably going to be able to get better prices than you normally would on maybe a smaller slate where everybody is like going, okay, well, this is like the sharp play tonight. I think there's multiple places you could say are the sharp play. So if you have a really good feeling about one guy, this slate could really bring you some good returns.
I think one logical area, obviously, for us to begin as it comes to going game by game, obviously, you look at the totals. Where are the points expected to be tonight? Who's going to rack up points in their own right, obviously? And there are a few that jump out. This Nets-Rockets game, all of a sudden, you get the East leaders, the Nets, and they're healthy for the most part. There's no Joe Harris. He's out. Obviously, there's no Kyrie Irving, but you have the studs. You have Durant. You have Harden. You have some of the guys that are around them, obviously, that have led to the success they've had. The Rockets, who were left for dead earlier in the year, have suddenly won 6 in a row. It's still not good. Don't get me wrong. They're 7-16, but playing much better of late. 227.5 projected points in that one. It's expected to be close. Brooklyn, as of right now, just favored by 6 points. And there are a couple other games that are in the 220s as well. The Jazz and Timberwolves in Minnesota, that's at 220. You got Magic and Kings later on tonight, 10 o'clock Eastern at 222. Which game stands out to you most?
Yeah, I definitely think it's the Brooklyn-Houston one. I mean, and if you've been looking, like Brooklyn, I mean, we've got a close point spread, and Brooklyn has not been good at covering spreads. So, I mean, this one really reeks of like it's going to be close. It's going to be high scoring. Houston, I mean, we could throw in the hard narrative if you want. I don't care, but it definitely feels like a game where you could get multiple guys going off here, and I think that's kind of where you should be starting. I mean, I know just from, again, you want to use the Awesemo projections. We've got IPO pricing, projections, for Jock Market on the site every day for NBA. It's a great thing. You need to go over to awesemo.com and see there, and you can sign up, do whatever. But Christian Wood projected as a very, very strong play in this game. We got him for 37, over 37 projection, but again, like a fair IPO price, well above what his fair market value is on Jock Market right now. So Christian Wood, definitely a player I think you should have interest in. But both Harden and Durant too, same kind of deal. They're projected, slightly above, their fair market IPOs here at around $12 for on our projections compared to what they are on the site. So Durant, Harden, both guys, I think you can target. Again, if you want to play the narrative, whatever. I think most people will be taking that narrative with Harden. So I think Durant is actually like the preferred target there for me. I think that if you're bidding pregame on Jock Market, you'll be able to just have a little bit less competition, and it'll be less of a crowded trade, whatever you want to call it, if you want to use the trading lingo. But Christian Wood, Kevin Durant, like both those guys, like you mentioned, this game has the most potential on the slate.
So staying with that game, there are a couple guys that jump out, certainly when it comes to, lower priced, higher point production type of value guys, obviously. And fair IPO price. Here's one, LaMarcus Aldridge. Ever since he moved in the starting lineup, obviously, has been putting up fantasy points, be it season-long DFS, obviously, Jock Market. He's been putting up production left and right. The numbers are much, much better when he's been in that starting lineup, and he's still cheap. He's, here on the Awesemo site, he's projected to be $2.20, projected for about $28. We can, cross-reference that, obviously, with what his actual price is on the Jock Market site here in this moment, but that's certainly a guy that jumps out quite a bit.
Yeah, Aldridge seems, pretty secure. I mean, especially for a player getting that cheap, you don't need. The nice thing about a guy like LaMarcus Aldridge in this game, getting a piece of him, you don't need him to finish top 5, right, to get a return. So, obviously, we're talking about when you're bidding, you're high bidding on these higher priced players, you need them to be in good spots. You need them to come up with those ceiling games, and that's why I think it's okay to pay up for Durant and Wood. But if you can get on Aldridge for cheap, that's definitely one player I don't hate from this game. Eric Gordon is always a player you can target in these situations too. I'm not sure what the competition will be for him. He's a bit more boomer bust. I think Aldridge has a far lesser, has a better floor. I think. I don't think, with him in the starting lineup anyways. So a couple guys in that game, Gordon and Aldridge. And again, I think for Eric Gordon in the spot like this, I mean, having played with Harden and stuff, I mean, I think there is a bit of a narrative. So for pure upside, I think Eric Gordon on the Rockets side, obviously, maybe offers even just a little bit better than Aldridge in terms of that. But I think Aldridge is a pretty safe play and a pretty solid investment here too.
So again, staying with this game, staying with the bigs, as a matter of fact. And, this is a guy that I guarantee we have never talked about ever in the history of this show. He is a first-year NBA player, but even still just has found a way to contribute even better opportunity than Aldridge, not certainly with the safest floor like LaMarcus Aldridge has, but how about, and I hope I'm saying this right, Alperen Şengün, okay? Alperen Şengün, who is the Turkish big man on this club, although, well, he plays center, although he's only 6'9", so I guess I use big man in a relative sense. But he is right now on the Jock Market site. We have him at about 23 projected points. He's 80 cents on the dollar, and a guy who's found a way of late.
And it's kind of, this all kind of just goes to, maybe this does maybe even lead to Aldridge being a better play. Because if you have a 6'9" guy like Şengün, who's a rookie, and he's taking minutes, I mean, it just screams there's going to be points available. I mean, he's obviously not the greatest defender or anything, but it also is, they're using him as a little bit more up-tempo style player. So I think Şengün is another way to get cheap exposure to this game for sure. Not going to cost you much. Again, obviously, if we can barely pronounce his name, most people aren't going to know who he is. So yeah, absolutely. A player who I think could get you a positive return in this game. And I like taking players from both sides in this game, because I said off the top, Brooklyn not covering point spreads lately at all. We've got a 6-pointer here. So projected close game until the end. The Brooklyn's not Houston's playing scrappy and Brooklyn's not blowing teams out. So it's the perfect recipe for a player like Şengün, who's locked into minutes. potentially will just be out there playing like a higher volume role in a game that should see lots of points. So yeah, that's kind of where I would go as well. Like I said, I like Wood. Gordon is interesting, but like for a cheaper price, you might just be able to get a piece of Sengun for like nothing. So
keep in mind too, Kevin Porter Jr. out, thigh injury, Jalen Green out with the hamstring injury, and I mentioned Joe Harris on the other side. So for the Rockets, lots of guys are obviously going to be relied upon to step up. Maybe just to give you one more play before we move on to a different game and different guys. What about Daniel Tice? Sticking with the bigger guys, we've got him projected at about 16 points. He's a dime. That's it.
I
dirt cheap pricing.
I think with both Tice and Sengun, it's almost like pick your poison. I think Sengun has the better upside, but they both might also be good in play guys, right? Because they're kind of going in that rotation. If you see one of them get hot, maybe, or even just like before, like maybe one of them starts cold and you get on the other one kind of thing. So I think those are both good in play as well. If you're watching this game and you're kind of trading as the game's going on, I look for both Sengun and Tice, potentially both to have good games. I mean, realistically, I definitely think Sengun is the better upside, but pricing comes into this as well. And maybe Sengun starts hot and then, you get a piece of Thies coming off the bench.
Our Awesemo Plus NBA Express weekly pass. It's not even $5 a week, folks. $4.95. We encourage that you check it out. Why wouldn't you? Because you can have access to all the great information that we keep talking about here, whether it's player projections, jock market, or otherwise, ownership projections, fantasy builder, if you want to build out lineups as well, fantasy cruncher, all that good stuff is available to you. So make sure you check it out. Do a head-to-head with a buddy, earn your $5 back, then enter those big GPPs and see if you can chase hundreds, thousands of dollars. Give it a go and stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Again, we encourage that you do so. It is really, it's smart money, folks. Smart money to use that $5 a week to have access to just a litany of great information that is available to you here that we keep reciting. So staying with some good, cheaper value plays, not even necessarily cheaper. In fact, if we were to go to the Miami game, Miami against Milwaukee, Tyler Hero is a guy who is projected to be in among the best spots tonight for what his cost is, which again is not much. To tell you exactly where we have him at this moment, projected for about 34 points on Jock Market. He's $5 as his fair IPO price, as compared to, again, 15 for Jokic, 14 for Giannis, Durant and Harden both at a dozen. Luka, Curry, and Embiid all north of 10. $5 for Tyler Hero, projected to be in a very, very good spot.
Yeah, it is a good spot. I mean, you just have to look through the Miami. Just look at all the red on the Miami players, the guys who are out is what I'm referring to, obviously. So, the only thing, and again, this kind of leads down to the format. And I mean, we do have him projected as a strong play. I mean, it was stronger than his fair value on Jock Market. The thing about Hero is everybody knows this is coming. So I guess it's one of those things, like you're going to be in competition. It's going to be crowded trying to fighting for a piece of Tyler Hero. So I think a player like Hero, since we know he's locked in, and again, I go back to this in play thing. I mean, don't forget, like the trading with Jock Market doesn't just end when the game starts. Like you can trade through the whole game. So if everybody's on Tyler Hero and Tyler Hero starts slow, well, everybody's going to be looking to dump Tyler Hero shares too. There's going to be a lot of liquidity in the Jock Market streets for Tyler Hero tonight. So I think that if you don't get on him pregame, don't go nuts, but he's going to be out there. There's so many bodies out there that out for Miami that I think Tyler Hero is a great in-play target as well. A player who will probably get there just based on the fact that he's going to be out there for a big portion of the game. His usage is just going to be high, right? So again, we haven't projected as a strong play. I just feel like for the strategy and for the format we're talking about, I kind of like Hero more as an in-game target.
So obviously you alluded to the Miami guys, just to clue people in. As things stand right now, Jimmy Butler is questionable, dealing with a tailbone injury, which sounds like a pain in the ass. Bam Adebayo and Victor Oladipo are both out in this one. So again, like you said, there's going to be opportunity for Miami. Brook Lopez, George Hill, both out for Milwaukee on the other side. You got a Bucks teams 1-2 straight. The Heat have lost 2 in a row. That game 7:30 Eastern, so it's about 6 hours from now. And obviously pricing and everything like that, it could fluctuate along the way. So I think I want to make sure, and we still have, 10, 15 minutes, but I want to make sure we spend an adequate amount of time on the Portland Trailblazers, because this is just a fascinating situation. The Blazers, who are just about as bad as you could possibly be on the road. They're 1-10. They've lost their last 3 overall. The Warriors, meanwhile, on the other side, tied for an NBA lead at 20-4 with Phoenix. Idle tonight, the Suns, 13-2 at home. This game, 10 o'clock tonight. Obviously, it has blowout written all over it. Normally, I would say blowout potential, Geoff. This has blowout written all over it. Like the game that we saw over the weekend that was decided by like 73 points. That's what we could be looking at tonight. Okay. Golden State is healthy. Obviously no Klay Thompson, but is healthy, sans like Andre Iguodala. For Portland, there's no Damian Lillard with the abdominal injury. He's not playing. CJ McCollum is, at last I saw, he's questionable with a rib injury. There's no way he's going to go with a collapsed lung. He's not going to play. Cody Zeller, questionable with a quad. Ben McLemore, questionable hip. Anthony Simons, questionable ankle. Nasir Little, questionable ankle. So, I don't expect all of these guys to play, obviously. There's going to be opportunity when it comes to pricing on that Portland side. What's the mentality right now for you?
So, for me, this game obviously has, I'm actually surprised at the line. The first thing I'm surprised the line's only -14. Cause I looked at this game too. And I'm like, am I missing something? Like, is Steph out? Cause it kind of feels like the Warriors should just be like -20 favorites. Maybe I don't bet as NBA as much as like NHL or other sports. So maybe they just don't see the lines get that big. I don't know. But it sure looks like a spot where Dennis Smith Jr. is just going to have to do like a whole ton, just be out there. And again, maybe this is one of those situations like Tyler Hero where it's like crowded and everyone's thinking the same thing. But I just like with all these bodies and this shorter rotation, I mean, like how can they even take him off the floor? And the same kind of goes for Norman Powell, right? I think I even prefer Powell just because I think with Powell, like when he gets hot kind of from a shooting perspective, like the points can just rack up there. But I mean, I think you can even go deeper tonight, man. Like, I mean, like a guy like Larry Nance Jr., a guy, I mean, who definitely can pop off for a game or two. There's got to be
Covington's another one.
Covington is just about to get to him. Like, I mean, there's guys here who absolutely we've known from like back in the day and other spots where they've been like vital parts of rotation. These guys are pretty good fantasy producers and they're all going to be playing in this role tonight. So I think this is a game where much like we talked about, like kind of like some of the players on Houston and Brooklyn are good targets. I think these guys are just like almost like must target some. I'm not saying like, oh, you have to target all of them, but pick and choose for sure. Again, if we're going over the projections here, I mean, I'll just quickly bring up like Powell and Powell's definitely projected as quite strong. I mean, over 25 points.
Everybody's going to be on Powell tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that kind of leads to, if you want to get more sneaky, like Nance and Covington are probably your guys to do, who also, I mean, they're not like out jumping off the page or anything, but these guys are going to have the rotation. They're going to be in the rotation. So, and good fantasy producers over their career, right? Like, I don't think you need to just write them off. And this could be a situation like Kaufman said, where it won't even matter because they're playing against like, nobody for the second half of the game. So, definitely a game where, I think you'll probably see at least one of these guys on Portland pop off. Now, I don't think you need to go crazy either. I mean, but Powell, Dennis Smith Jr., that's where I would start. Maybe if you want to be contrarian, I don't even know if it's contrarian, but like Nurkic, I mean, I just don't know how much he can play with the Warriors, just their style of game. But maybe if Portland does keep this game close, Nurkic is a guy where he could just rack up like, 50 fantasy points or something. So I think the Trailblazers are interesting. If I was going to take shares of Nurkic, I would be very careful with it because this one gets blown out. Like, I just don't think he'll play that much. So that's the one thing I'll say about him. Definitely an interesting target though, because the game stays closer than we think. He'll probably play a ton.
If anybody has any questions in the final, not even 10 minutes, we're here with you. Get them in by all means here on the YouTube page, Twitter, wherever you're finding us. Obviously, we'll take a look and try and get them answered for you. Now, there's certainly some first timers out there for Jock Market, so we'll educate you however we can. Hopefully, we've been doing so somewhat along the way. Another guy, Geoff, who I think pops off as a a good potential play tonight anyway. A buck right now is the projected fair IPO price, projected for about 23 points. And that is Ayo Dosumu, who, of course, was very good for the Bulls the other night. He's in a good spot here tonight as well. He's going to be very popular. People are not going to be sleeping on him, I wouldn't think. Kind of Norman Powell-esque in that way. I think there's going to be, a lot of shares going his way, obviously. But, what jumps out to you about him in this Chicago-Cleveland game?
Yeah, I mean, like this one, I don't have as much interest in just because of the game style and the game flow. I mean, we just got finished talking about like the Nets and the Rockets, and then like a potential for just some like juicy garbage time. And then we have to move to like Cleveland and Chicago, which has a 2-11 game total. Now it is projected to be close. So, I mean, that's interesting, but I just feel like the style of game and the pace of play with these two teams, it's not as interesting. And also you have a player in Dosunmu who, I mean, look, he had a good game last time, but he also needed 42 minutes to have a good game. So we're not talking about like the most efficient fantasy player. He's not averaging anywhere near to a fantasy point per minute or anything like that. So this is almost the spot where I would straight up say I kind of feel okay fading it. And I know what the rotation is like. Like I know he's going to be playing. So, but it just, everybody knows that and everyone's going to be in on it. And I just don't know that the game situation is going to be all that good for it. So I don't know. I don't really know how, again, it's a 13 game slate and we've got so many of these situations. I feel like you got to pick and choose a little bit, and Awesemo with everybody on him, or sorry, Dosunmu, Ayo, I'll just call him, is one of those players where I just think is kind of fine. Like you don't need to jump on the crowd. Like if he goes off, he goes off. But I mean, we haven't really seen him even when he's getting like 40 minutes go off. So I think there's just better values out there that you can target.
Maybe this one gets you a little bit more excited, especially as there's potential value out there. Not even potential to me, it's expected. Is this Dallas and Memphis game? Now, for the Mavericks, not as overwhelming. Willie Cauley-Stein is out with an illness. Everybody else available. Memphis, Kyle Anderson, doubtful with the back. Brandon Clark, John Morant, as we know, both those guys are out. Matter of fact, Morant, he was out with a knee injury, out indefinitely, but he just entered the league's health and safety protocols as well. So that's another headache, obviously, potentially for Memphis coming down the pike here. See if anybody else has had it before the game. But at the moment, Dylan Brooks, Tyus Jones, guys that people are regularly putting in their DFS lineups. John Conchar is another guy as well. How do you feel about this Memphis squad?
Every time I talk about Memphis, it just feels like they're down to like 8 players. And I mean, I know it's like the theme,
the Thunder
like,
of last year.
Yeah. But I mean, but just like, even like going back like 2 years, it just feels like every time anyways, it's just a thing. But yeah, I mean, I like this spot better. Like, I think I like this a little bit better. I know there's not, the rotation isn't as short maybe in this game, but like Ja Morant being out is a pretty big thing for Memphis just because of how big a party is to it. And it just gives a bump to other players. So, I think Dylan Brooks is a player who we've seen, like when he gets the minutes, can pop off for some pretty big games. I think most people will be looking at, potentially him, but Jaren Jackson Jr. also, should be getting, a slightly bit more usage here in a game against Dallas, who not necessarily like, again, and you mentioned, some of the injuries on the other side. So I kind of like Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, I think with how you're looking at this game and just the players being out and stuff like that, I think Jackson has a potentially good matchup here. And that's where I feel like Memphis will probably, like, who will get the bump, because when they're not necessarily going to be as reliant on like the guards for scoring, it feels like Jackson could be just slightly bump in usage and shots and stuff like that. So I think all things considered, that's where I would go in this game. Not sure how much interest I have in like the Dallas players. Well, I mean, you should always have some interest in like Doncic, obviously, but sure. I think with the other studs and like the games we've talked about, I feel like Memphis definitely going to be playing a little bit slower pace here with no Morant out. And obviously, like I said, like a pretty good matchup for their inside guys. So I'm not sure. I think if I was going to take a shot with a player on Dallas, it would maybe be with like Finney Smith a guy who's just such high usage and will be out there a ton. Maybe you go inside with like Maxi Kleber or something like that, but I don't have a ton of interest in Dallas in this game. I think you can play some guys on Memphis with the shorter rotation, but I do like other spots than the Mavericks tonight.
Going back to that Chicago game for a second too, I just wanted to mention so people are aware of just how good an opportunity Io has, and Geoff, alluded to it with the absence on that Bills side. There's no DeMar DeRozan, there's no Kobe White, there's no Alex Caruso. All those guys are all out tonight. Troy Brown Jr. is another guy you could potentially, get some obviously real cheap shares in and express interest in that.
Yep.
This Charlotte game against Philadelphia, and it's going to be one of the first, obviously, to get going at 7:00 Eastern. Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, Jalen McDaniels, Ish Smith, Mason Plumlee. They are all out for the Hornets against the Sixers in this one. What stands out to you?
Yeah, this one feels like the line is like a little bit too short too, right? I mean, Sixers only -6. I know the Sixers have been having trouble getting together, but that's like you just mentioned their whole.
It's basically the starting lineup.
It's basically the starting lineup, right?
Yeah, like everybody rostered Cody Martin tonight.
Yeah, I like Kelly Oubre Jr. a lot. And again, like the funny thing is, like we're talking about all these players, like, well, this is obvious spots. Everyone's going to be on this guy. Well, you can't be on everybody, and I feel like this is one of those games. It's the early start. I feel like people maybe just forget about this one. And like Kelly Oubre coming off of like a 43, like he's played basically averaging over 40 minutes the last two games. And he's been good. He's averaged over a fantasy point per minute and that high usage. We've seen him produce big games like when he gets this kind of stuff as well. These guys can fill it out on all aspects of the stat sheet. You love that. He's going to play a ton here, man. I think he's one of the top plays for sure. I mean, I'll see where Alex has him ranked out. I'd be kind of surprised if he wasn't like, pretty strong, but, yeah, that's definitely like
he's Oubre's priced at 290 and about 30 projected points.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty strong stuff. And again, these projections may also, change a little bit, just until he confirms people being out. So always take that into consideration, but yeah, I mean, I think the question is, does Charlotte have enough to keep this game close? And I think, like I said, the line maybe looks a little bit smaller than it should be, but they probably do just from a scoring perspective. Like maybe they get behind, but I think they could probably make a run to keep this close enough with like Haywood and Oubre still, and obviously Bridges still. So yeah, it's a really good spot. Like I like this. I like targeting the Charlotte players way more than I like targeting the Bulls players, because there's more productive players and they're going to be in still really defined roles as well. And I don't mind Embiid on the other side either at all in this matchup. Sure. I mean, this is like, I think he maybe isn't projecting like quite as strongly in our projections as some other players, but I think like pairing Embiid with Oubre in this spot is really good way to get exposure from this game. And again, I don't think this game will be as popular. So, it's only got it's a 215 total. So maybe it'll have some eyes on it, but there's with all these other spots and injury stuff, like I feel like this game could be the one that goes under the radar. And I like I said, I don't mind getting Embiid. Philly's a team who really, I mean, maybe I'm probably giving them too much credit saying the line should be bigger. And then you've got guys like Oubre and even like Haywood, who just can be in huge usage spots. So
before we go, let's each give two plays that we love tonight. You want to go first, or you want me to?
You go first.
All right. I'm going to throw out a guy that we both talked a lot about. That's Io. Love Io tonight. All about Dosunmu. So make sure you get all the shares of Io. I'm looking for big things out of him. And then I will add to that. I keep coming back to that Memphis game. I'm going to go with Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks, another one that I really like tonight, but there's a long list. I mean, I could rattle off a dozen names of guys that I like tonight. So what have you got?
Absolutely. And that's kind of why I wanted to drive on that last point. Like, there'll be a couple guys that get really popular, but I think it's going to be very spread out tonight. I'll definitely mention Kelly Oubre again. And, I'm just going to stick with that game because I'm glad we got to it, but I like Joel Embiid as well. I think people are just going to just kind of forget about him tonight. I mean, with like the Brooklyn stuff going on and the Bulls stuff and just all these games to choose from. So I like that game a lot.
Beautiful. Love all the commentary in the chat as well. Hit the like button before you leave us. Remember, there's a whole lot coming up over the course of the day on the Awesemo YouTube page. We encourage you to check it out. Just to give you a little preview, a little sneak peek. What have we got here? Coming up at 2 o'clock, NHL strategy show, not with Moose, as much as he knows his pucks. It's Cliffy and Harris will be along with you for an hour to break things down, starting at 2 Eastern, a little less than a half hour from now. You got the No House Advantage NFL strategy show at 4 o'clock. Eitan and Aaron Berg coming your way. 4:45 NBA Deeper Dive for this big, robust 13-game slate tonight. That'll be our own Awesemo himself, Alex, along with Bearded Adam. And at 6 o'clock, NBA Live before lock until 7:30 with Greg and my buddy Eric Lindquist, recently married. Congratulate him if you didn't know that, folks. But that's about it. That's a show. I'm going to be back with you tomorrow to do some NFL talk, to preview the Thursday night football game, and find some way to brag on my Patriots as best I can. I'm sure, Geoff, we will see you here again real soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You always check out the Jock Market videos I do for the site on the weekend, previewing the Sunday slate and the Monday slate and stuff like that. And, stop by next Wednesday. Hopefully this gives you guys at least a little bit of a primer for this slate, because you'll need those extra shows today. So
beautiful. Thanks to our producer, Mike, Mr. Awesemo, and of course, Moose. I'm Kauf. Thanks for being with us. We do this every Wednesday, Jock Market NBA. Check us out, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Till the next time, we'll see you.